Well, welcome to Food Farm Talk on CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and on podcast and all the major platforms. I'm Paul Smith. I'm one of the hosts of Food Farm Talk. The others are Emily Duncan and Abdul Rahim Abdullahi. Today we're talking with Mike Smith about the Guelph Centre for Urban Organic Farming at the University of Guelph and what it is and what it does. We're broadcasting here from the treaty lands of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation of the Anishinaabeg Nation. Please follow the podcast and our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook accounts. So the University of Guelph is known as Canada's Food University, and it began its existence as the Ontario Agricultural College. Students can get a certificate in organic agriculture through the university, as well as many other agriculture degrees. So it's fitting that Guelph has the Guelph Centre for Urban Organic Farming here to help in both the learning and research functions. The centre is run through the Department of Agriculture within the Ontario Agricultural College, and so we're happy to have Mike Smith here, no relation, the centre's farm coordinator, to talk more about the activities of the Guelph Centre for Urban Organic Farming. Good morning, Mike. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll start off with if you can tell us a bit about the basics of the center and its kind of high level functions that it plays in the university and the broader community.
Sure. So the Guelph Centre for Urban Organic Farming is located, as you mentioned, on the University of Guelph. We are within the Arboretum in terms of our physical area, which is effectively, for those listeners who are not familiar with Guelph, it's effectively a botanical gardens that is located here on campus. So we are a 2.5 acre space right here on campus in which we grow certified organic vegetables, fruits, herbs, and some flowers. Those plants that we grow are ultimately harvested and consumed by people here on campus. And we support different curriculum, whether it's courses here on campus or student projects and research here on site. And that's our broad strokes. We hire students to come on. We take on volunteers where we are often a first touch point for people who are either not necessarily folks that are studying agriculture here on campus, but often we're that first touch point as Canada's Food University for those who are not coming from an agricultural background. It's their first chance to actually get their hands dirty and see what agriculture is all about. So whether or not they're philosophy students or political science or economic students, engineers, we have folks from all different disciplines that do come out, whether it's for a farm tour or just they happen to be going for a walk and they happen to stumble upon us. So yeah, it's that first opportunity for a lot of students who don't have that agricultural background to sort of get connected with food.
Yeah, well, that's good that you appeal to the broad range of students too, not just Aggies. And so why don't you tell us about how you came to be in this position as a farm coordinator and a bit about your background, how you ended up here and what attracted you to this particular work, and maybe a bit about the other people that are involved in the center.
Sure. I've been in the role for approximately 2 years, but I've worked in the organic agriculture sector for about the last 20 years. I originally got a summer job during my degree here in Guelph, not at the university here, but on another farm at the Ignatius Jesuit Center, which is a training farm at the north end of the city of Guelph, where I came back many years later into a leadership role where I co-managed the vegetable production there and their practices and principles of organic agriculture program for approximately a decade. So in that time, I got to grow lots of different food, mostly all fruits and vegetables, mostly on the vegetable front. And then I trained dozens of different students in that role, where we mentored them through the beginning to the end of the season and effectively taught them the skills to run their own small farm businesses. Coming into the opportunity a couple of years ago here also to be in the city of Guelph was wonderful. After working at Ignatius for a decade, I did work for a couple of years at the Green Organic Dutchman, which is Canada's largest certified organic cannabis company, where I really leveled up my people skills as a supervisor. I was responsible for a very large physical area of greenhouses, as well as many dozens of staff growing a lot of organic cannabis in a state-of-the-art facility. So that leveled up my skills with working with people and in those controlled environments before coming back into the sort of more veggie realm. For me, it's, the education part is a big part of my career path. I really get a lot of value out of connecting with young people and connecting them with their food. So having the opportunity to come to work here at the University of Guelph, which is where I live, is great to be able to be connected to my community and to have that opportunity to connect people with their food for the first time. For me, that brings a lot of passion. You can probably guess the passion for my career in doing that, and seeing how that one opportunity can change someone's perspective on their food. Maybe just for the day, but sometimes for their life path, depending on what they choose to do after this.
Yeah, that's great. How about the other couple of people I know are involved in some fashion with the center?
Yeah, of course. So, nothing here on campus is a solo act, that's for sure. And so, while my role as the farm coordinator, I manage the day-to-day operations on the farm. I'm by far supported by a number of other individuals. So, Kim Schneider, she is the faculty supervisor. So she's my direct report. She is works within the Department of Plant Agriculture here at the University of Guelph.
Mhm.
As well as Barry Mutcliffe, who works as a faculty member here as well at the University of Guelph in the Plant Agriculture Department. He focuses on vegetable production in terms of his research, where Kim focuses a lot on forages. So those, Kim also has had experience on organic farms throughout her education and her past as well. So they both have a bit of a farming background as well as the academia. And so when we talk about the farm's vision and the direction the farm wants to go, some of our big larger capital projects, they are well aware of the scope and the scale of the farm, the challenges that we face, and provide their support and their experience to help leverage the farm to go in the right direction.
That's cool. Yeah, thank you. Now, the most obvious question that most listeners would have is, what do you grow at the farm, and what do you do with the produce that you produce? How does it benefit the community?
Yeah.
And I know you have different partner organizations you work with, both on the campus and off. So you can tell us about that.
Yeah, so sometimes I joke that we grow the arugula through zucchini. Being formerly being running a vegetable production program, I have a lot of experience growing lots of different things. And so since the Guelph Centre for Urban Organic Farming is a demonstration farm, we're only 2.5 acres. You can't, you're not producing that much food on 2.5 acres. You could still produce a lot, but conceptually, it's a demonstration. So we do a lot of different things. So lots of different greens, fruiting crops like your peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, cucumbers. We have some fruit like raspberries and strawberries. A whole bunch of different leafy greens, different herbs, flowers. It's as a demonstration site, we try to grow a lot of different things, different cover crops, which are for those not Aggies out there, a cover crop or a green manure is a crop that you grow instead of, sometimes people might think of it as just leaving a field fallow. It's where you're not growing a production vegetable in a particular area in a given year, but we're growing different plants there that we ultimately will cut down or compost, or that material will be reincorporated into the soil. So we do different ones of them, of those. So again, as a demonstration site, so people can see how those different cycles work and how those different plants have a different role in the production cycle, not just always as something that you take out. In terms of where the food goes, the food is mostly consumed here right on campus. So we have a fabulous relationship with hospitality services. So big shout out to everybody over in the hospitality services department. They're the ones who run all the food vending operations here on campus. So if you are eating in a residence, or if you're wanting to go to a restaurant here on campus, or getting something from a vending machine, they're the ones who are running all that food infrastructure here on site. So we have a relationship with them where throughout the growing season, the material that we harvest, that crop, we sell directly to them, and that affords us, gets us a competitive price for our fresh organic produce, and then that gives us some financial flexibility in our budget to then that effectively subsidizes how we distribute it in other ways. So we do donate food to the CSA food bank here on campus, as well as we partner with, the seed and the sustainability office to work at a sliding scale market for students in the fall. And that way, depending on your means, you're going to go to hospitality services and buy yourself some lunch, or whether or not you're going to go to the market to take something home to cook for yourself, or if you're really strapped, you can go to the campus food bank. And so there's, depending on your means, there are different ways you can access the food that we grow.
Yeah, that's great. That's hyper local, right? Can't get more local than.
Yeah, we are a 10-minute walk from the University Center, which is where I think you guys typically broadcast out of.
Probably 100 meters from Creelman, right?
Something pretty close to that, yeah.
Yeah. So now, obviously, education, as you mentioned, so the learning and research at the university is crucial as well. So how does the center kind of relate and interact with students and professors and the courses on campus? And how does that function work?
Yeah, so it's a little bit more, I would say, on an ad hoc basis at present. Over the center has existed for well over 10 or 12 years, as I've only been here the last 2. I'm not quite sure what the formal arrangements were prior to my start date. However, there are many published papers that have happened on site during that time. The center, just for context, during the COVID-19 did kind of like slow down and go into a bit of a caretaker mode. And so when I came in the middle of that, things weren't happening on campus. And so now that we've climbed out of that, state of affairs here on campus and in the wider community, we're connecting again with professors and with students in order to have the space be used for educational purposes. And so since I've been here, we have mostly focused initially on just connecting back with students by offering tours and having students doing hands-on coursework on site, whether it's taking plant samples or photographs, things like that. We've partly because of the nature of people coming back in a staggered kind of way. That was the easiest way. If people were say doing remote learning, they wouldn't necessarily be able to get hands-on experience in the same way that other members of their class were. So different professors had different ways of navigating some of those things. So a lot of tours, a lot of that hands-on coursework that way. We do partner with a number of classes where they do come up and do soil samples and things like that, where it's that hands-on experience for coursework so that it's not all theory-based. There are a number of student projects where students have said, have approached us independently to say, I'm doing a project on X, Y, or Z. We're curious if we could do that on your site, as we have to do it somewhere. And, depending on what those requests are, we try our best to help students out with that as best we can. So
that's an area you're probably going to try to continue to grow as the word spreads about the center and how it might integrate into courses.
Absolutely. And part of our challenge at the moment is that we are in the process of a capital campaign where we are upgrading some of our power and water infrastructure. Last year, we did a little bit of work on it. And this upcoming season looks like it's going to be really where the rubber hits the road, and that project's going to be completed. At which point, once we have more reliable water and power, particularly if we have proposals for, say, someone doing a trial of some particular plant, I wanted to ensure that those students had the infrastructure they needed to actually be successful in their trials. I would hate for them to, be ready to do their master's thesis and then, it's hot and dry and sorry, no water. That would be unfortunate.
Absolutely.
Not a great way. So prior to, so once we get that infrastructure in place, then we'll be doing a little bit more of a concerted effort to, look out opportunities and let folks know that there are opportunities for doing some of their projects and research out here as that time goes forward.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to support them as best we can as well. So making clear what those students who want to do projects out here to have them be clear of what we can offer and what sort of limitations are in place, but also that both parties can have clear expectations of how that relationship can be successful and how their research in turn or their student projects can also be successful.
Okay, that's good. Very good. And you've kind of alluded to the history of the farm as well. So a lot of listeners, it seems difficult for many of us to remember before COVID, of course. So, but people will remember that the farm has been around, as you've alluded to, but 10 or 12 years maybe. And even I remember going to the weekly farm market that happened before COVID, and it was kind of a nice experience. And so you now have a new arrangement with based on the student referendum for funding for the farm back in 2019. So maybe you can talk a bit about how you came in after that, but talk about the arrangement that was struck with the I guess with the CSA and the Central Student Association, and how that's managed, and the term, and a little bit of the details of that, so people
Sure.
understand the governance of it.
Yeah, so from my understanding is that, as you mentioned, in 2019, there was a student referendum in which students voted in favor of a $1 a semester per undergraduate student to go towards the farm. So, for every semester that an undergraduate is here, they're contributing that $1. That money, it goes to subsidize in part my wage here, so that because previously to have at least one person consistently on site, so that covers part of my wage to be here on campus. It also goes towards other farm infrastructure that's needed. And so that's a bit of a catch-all. But over the course of a year, obviously, you don't need to buy shovels every year. Once you've bought those shovels, they'll last a while before you got to replace them. So it comes and goes depending on what we're trying to do. So that's where the money goes, which has given the farm the opportunity then to invest in that infrastructure over time. When I came, there was a whole bunch of holes in terms of some of the infrastructure that was already here, as I alluded to with one of our capital campaigns. But that money goes directly towards the operations of the farm, so that way it can continue to have at least some financial reliability from season to season. The farm itself gets money, for some context, it gets money from the Department of Plant Agriculture. It gets money from the CSA through the student referendum. And we also get money through either any kind of fundraising we can do or any sales that we make. So those are the four kind of different quadrants that we have in terms of funding coming into the center. And by having things like the students supporting the farm and my wage, it then gives me the opportunity to spend that time to help students with their projects and their research, because I can put that focus on supporting them, however that they need, rather than being, say, a production farm where it's like all my financial baskets are coming from whatever I sell, and thus, I need to put all of my attention into just cranking out as much food as humanly possible. So that money really helps the students that come, whether they're volunteering or doing student projects, so that I can give them my full attention and to train them on what they want to do out there, and to support those projects and that's educational opportunities that they're there for to learn.
And the student funding runs for 10 years, I think you said when we talked before?
Yes, it's 10 years. It goes to 2029. At which point, if the students and the farm want to renew that, there would have to be another referendum at that point to discuss what that new relationship would be.
And there's some sort of advisory committee you have where the CSA and whoever else is kind of gives you input on your plans.
Yeah, as I alluded to earlier, nobody is running solo here at the University of Guelph. We're all supporting each other in all the work that we do. And so we do have an advisory committee that has different stakeholders that want to provide input on the direction of the farm. So, a couple times a year, I present to them effectively what our plan is for the upcoming growing season, and then I give them a broad stroke report on how the growing season has went. At those points too, it's also opportunities for some of that high level conversations in terms of direction and planning opportunities that we want to make sure that we're able to offer from year to year at that point. And so there are, as you alluded to, there is a representative from the CSA that is on that committee as well. There are students from the Department of Plant Agriculture who sit on that committee, as well as other departments who we have very close working relationships, like the Arboretum, for example. We're in their space. We want them to know what we're doing. We want to know what they're doing. And so that way, again, it's like having clear communication about what we all want to do, and then how can we support the work that each other is doing, so that we're not reinventing the wheel every time one of us wants to do a thing. So the farm could not be what it is if it was just a little island out by itself. It really has become the success that it is based on the relationships that we've built with students and faculty and staff here on campus and within the wider community.
Yeah, that's great. And the Arboretum is certainly ramping up their profile and services to students too. So it's a great resource.
Yeah.
Even beyond the farm itself. Yeah. So organic agriculture, the public throws the word around as if they know what it means, of course. And so the center was certified organic at some point in the past, right? And so maybe we could talk a bit about, try to make that real for the listeners about what being certified organic means and what it means in particular for the center and the farm you have, and in terms of the process followed, and then the keeping up the certification, what the process is.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. For those who are not familiar with it, it is a bit of a process. So broad strokes, to be certified organic. So if you were to say something is organic in the province of Ontario, I believe officially you need to be certified. So if you are going to throw that word around, people do. But if you are in a commercial environment or something, or you're advertising, it needs to be certified. So what does it mean to be certified organic? It means you need to follow the Canadian Organic Standard. That's kind of it's the big list of things that is the do's and the don'ts of what it means to be an organic operation. And depending on the type of farm operation you have, there's different things on that list that are relevant to you. Within that, there would be things like there's a large appendix, which is like the permitted substance list. These are the things you can put on your soil or on the plants, and these are the things you can't. Anyone who wants to be organic, you got to follow that list. And as a farm, you're audited at least once a year. And so we provide documentation to our certifier is EcoCert, which is a third party arm's length organization. It's a third party. And then they are certified as a certifier with Agriculture Canada. And so Agriculture Canada effectively says, hey, you third parties, you do the internal auditing. We're not going to farms. That's your job. So those third parties we connect with, and ours is EcoCert, as I mentioned. And so that process is that it's like an audit. Like if your finances were being audited, they're looking at all of our paper trail for all of the invoices of everything that went into production on the farm. So all of our seeds, all of our fertilizers, all those inputs. If it goes into the field, I need to have paper trail. So if I was to say, borrow your rototiller and I wanted to bring it out to the farm, I would need to have documentation to say that, hey, this new piece of equipment, where was it before? What happened to it? If I don't know, it's like I need to show that I've actually thoroughly cleaned that new piece of equipment and done my due diligence to make sure there's not a cross-contamination point. A lot of times people wonder about the plants themselves. If I buy a plant at the store, is it organic? Things like that. If it is, it would have to say that it was certified by a third party. And then that way there's like that follow-up step of how, what does that mean? And if it does say that it is, there would be that certification logo that people can cross-reference.
Yeah, that's good. That's a nice little thumbnail sketch of it, because I think a lot of the public it's a bit of a black box for the public. So,
and that's understandable. I mean, there's a lot of different terminology out there, and once you get into the weeds on any subject out there, you just sort of open up this Pandora's box of details, especially when you get into like legalese and everything. If anyone wants to talk more about it, I'm more than happy to answer people's questions. I've been responsible for certifying many businesses over the years. It's something that I'm fairly comfortable with.
You were a certifier, or you were?
I've not been a certifier,
But you've been on the other end.
I've been on the other end, certifying different operations. So, different agricultural operations. That's been my job to do all that paperwork, to meet with the inspectors, and to go through that whole process. So, I pretty much, if anyone out there is thinking about doing it, there is a cost associated with it. Like anything in this world, you're hiring someone to do some work for you. The easiest answer is just keep track of all your stuff. People have asked if they could hire me to do their certification for them. I'm not opposed to it, but a lot of those people that really have an issue with it, you don't have the like I would be asking them the questions that the certifier would in order for me to do that job for them. How big is your lead? I don't know. Well, you'll need to know that.
Yeah.
What are you growing? I don't know. Well, you need to know that because they're going to ask you that. So
Yeah. So you obviously you can't do it all yourself, so you rely on volunteers to come out and help you do various functions on the property itself, whether it's planting or weeding or watering or irrigating. And so I know, and you do have regular tours out there to show people what's going on, and that's how I met you first a year or two ago, I think.
yeah.
And so maybe you can talk about how you get volunteers and what they do, and so if people are listening and are interested in potentially volunteering, they could figure out how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as you said, like in terms of how is the work getting done? Because I'm only one person. Yes, I cannot do it all myself, and so we do hire students from the University of Guelph to come out and, as a summer job, come and help do our planting and our plant maintenance and all that sort of stuff. And we definitely take volunteers. We've already had a couple dozen this year helping in the greenhouse do all of our spring seeding here in the greenhouse. So, for folks that are interested, what you're going to be doing really depends on the time of year. Since we are farming and gardening, it's a seasonal thing. So if those students who came to volunteer in March and April, it's been almost exclusively greenhouse seeding. Sometimes it's like handling the plants in a different way, putting them in a larger pot, but you're doing stuff in the greenhouse at that nursery stage when things are just young. As we're moving into May, we're going to be starting to plant into the field. So we call direct seeding, or we'll be transplanting those plants that we've already seeded into the field. As the season progresses into June and into July, we'll be doing a lot of weeding, other plant maintenance like, trellising, setting up irrigation lines, protective structures, and ultimately harvesting those plants that we picked. So in that first, up until I would say probably, end of June through September, we're doing all those things. We're planting, we're doing the weeding, we're doing the plant maintenance, and we're harvesting. And then just as students start to come back into the fall, we've stopped all that planting business and we're focusing more on plant maintenance and the harvesting. And as we're into the fall, it's just pretty much exclusively harvesting and then starting to put, the garden to bed, as it were. Starting to wrap things up for the winter by planting cover crops, by putting away things, and, doing that last hurrah of getting everything that we planted out of the field before the weather really turns on us and we all see that snow again.
I guess it's probably a good opportunity for people who are interested in organic farming or gardening to get a chance to do some of the activities and try it out to see whether they want to do it in a bigger way themselves at home or on a piece of land somewhere.
Yeah, I think volunteering on a farm is a great way to start learning experientially rather than just in a book how plants grow, because sometimes it's a little bit harder to say, articulate the nuance of how to say handle different plants. Some are more sensitive than others, for example, when you're actually planting it. So to get that hands-on experience, for me anyway, I find is really helpful for really, really absorbing some of those learnings.
Mm-hmm.
I've always told people too, if it's something that they're interested in, but they've not done it, volunteering is a great way to get started rather than getting a job. Not just getting a job if they're going to pay you to teach you how to do it, but the expectations are going to be different. And in an environment like ours, where we're very, respectful, open, welcome place, we like to have a lot of fun. It's like it's a fun, no stress way of learning how to get how to grow some plants and how to grow some food, and make some new friends while you're out there.
Yeah, that's great. And you have a little forum on your website for volunteering where people can submit their name and.
That's right. If you go onto our website through the University of Guelph, you can follow the links there to become a volunteer. Or if for some reason you're lost on the internet, you can find us on our social handles and DM us directly. GCUOF at UOG dot or uofguelph.ca. That's the catch-all kind of email info page that ultimately goes to me, and that'll answer any of your questions or forward you to the appropriate.
Well, that's great. Yeah, because I think lots of people will be interested.
Yeah, I mean, last year we had well over 100 different volunteers who came out, and it's been growing ever since I started here. So, some people come regularly, and others, it's a one-off thing that they've done. They've got their hands dirty and they've checked that box. And to each their own. Sometimes you don't know that you don't like something until you've done it. Great, you've done it. Not for you. Now you know.
There's so many opportunities in Guelph because you have the allotment gardens and you have Ignatius and you have at your center, so it's a good city to be dabbling in this stuff and get your hands dirty, literally. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So, is there any other aspects of this we haven't talked about that you'd like to tell people about, or?
Well, in May, so on May 27th. It's a Saturday. We have partnered with the Master Gardeners here in the city, as well as Pollination Guelph, the Enabling Garden, and a number of others to run a plant sale down at Riverside Park. So if anyone wants to take home the plants that we're growing, so you can grow them in your own garden, whether it's on a balcony or in your community garden, you're more than welcome to join us and to take some plants home there. That's the 27th of May. I believe the hours are from 12 until 4. In the afternoon at Riverside Park, I believe near the big carousel, which I think is a decent landmark for folks to find. So there's that. And we'll be doing different tours throughout the summer. So if you follow us on our social media or join our newsletter, you'll get the info on a regular basis of the different events and activities that we'll be involved in the coming growing season. So yeah, for the folks that want more information, I invite you to reach out.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And we'll, in our own social media and show notes for this show and on CFRU, you can find that information on the center as well. So that's great. Thanks for coming on the show, Mike. I think this will be really a lot of interest to a lot of people in City of Guelph, and and I think there's a certain amount of raising awareness after COVID, after we've over the big lockdowns, and there'll be a growing interest in it. So thanks to all the listeners too on CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph and on our podcast. And as I said, check out our show notes and social media feeds. You can find out more about the Guelph Centre for Urban Organic Farming. And please tune in again next week or the week after for another episode of Food Farm Talk. Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks for having me.